The Notorious Lift Radix. I have thoroughly enjoyed this shoe, to be quite honest with you, and three things that I like about this model is number one, this is a sick shoe for training, and so more specifically, if you're somebody that needs a shoe for lifting with some cross training blended in, this can be a fantastic option to go with. And now in the context of lifting, there are three things that I think help make this shoe excel. Number one, the wicked minimalist stack height. So this model has a 3.3 millimeter stack height, a 2 millimeter thick sole, and 1.3 millimeter thick lugs. So if you're trying to get as close to the ground as possible, this can be an awesome option. The second reason why I like this model for lifting is because we do have this outsole wrap here, or sole wrap, around the entirety of this shoe. This gives you a little bit of a wall to drive into when you are doing any form of sumo pulling or any form of lateral work, and you get a nice level of security with this to help add to your foot security when lifting and training. The third reason why I like this model for lifting is with this Novus Grip Tech tread, you get a lot of grip on different surfaces. So with this herringbone tread patterning, it grips really well. So whether you are on rubber gym floors, wooden platforms, turf, etc., I don't think you're gonna have slip issues at all in this model. The second reason why I like this shoe is its width. So you have a nice wide toe box, a nice wide midfoot. So I think if you have a flatter foot and you don't love taper at all in your shoe, or you find some barefoot shoes like have that aggressive taper, I don't think you're gonna have that with this model. Plus with this shoe, this upper kind of does have a bit of laxity here to the medial sidewall of the shoe, so you do get a little bit more wiggle room too for flatter feet. The third reason why I like this model is outside of it just being a really stellar shoe in the gym, it has a great price point at $100. I feel like that's pretty fair for what this shoe offers, and to be quite honest with, even with the minimalist branding, you can wear this shoe on a daily wear basis. And to kind of speak to that, I did wear these out to the bar the other night with my buddy. We played pickleball at this bar, and I actually got a woman's number. And so was it because I was wearing my Radix or because she felt bad for me? I'm probably gonna go with the latter, but either way, this is a good shoe, I think, for matching the price point with a bunch of different uses. And if you are on the market for a new barefoot shoe for lifting, and you don't feel like dropping a ton of money, that's where I think this shoe can excel. But now let's talk about a couple of cons that I have with the Radix. So the first con that I have with the Radix, and this really is kind of a niche con, is the tongue. So this tongue doesn't have a gusset, and there's no loop here to give it additional security. So this tongue can slide from time to time. I notice this most when cross training. So when doing like lateral sled work and whatnot, this tongue did slide a bit. I don't think it's gonna be the biggest deal for folks who just want this shoe for lifting or some more casual cross training, but it does slide. And so for my case too, I like to wear this shoe a little bit looser because I slip it on and rock it on a day-to-day basis. That's where also this tongue can slide, because if it's looser, you're gonna have less friction of the tongue pressing into the top of the foot to help keep that secure. So just keep that in mind. It's not gonna make or break this shoe's performance in my opinion, but it would be cool to see a little bit of a gusset or a loop on the future iterations of this shoe's tongue. The second con that I could see folks having with this model is, look, if you're brand new to barefoot shoes, you might not necessarily love how minimalist this shoe feels. You do have a thin foam removal insole, which does give you a little bit of cushion, and there is a finished internal construction for my true minimalist lovers. But for my beginners out there who might want a bit more cushion to acclimate to the style of footwear, this might not be your best option. Now, if you're just wearing them for training, that I would not even worry about that. And I actually just filmed an acclimation video for barefoot shoes. I'm gonna link that up there, but just buyer be warned, if you're brand new to this footwear and you want a shoe for walking long distances or even running and whatnot, you might want to look into something that has a bit more cushion and stack height to it to help ease you into this footwear. But all that said, let's talk about the performance of the Radix. To break down the performance of the Radix, I'll discuss how this shoe does for lifting, cross training, and daily wear. I have not ran in this shoe, I don't plan to run in them, so I'm not going to speak to short runs in this model. Now, in the context of lifting, I have really enjoyed the articulation of this shoe. I talked about in my pros three other reasons why I like this model for lifting, but this is one of the most minimalist feeling training shoes I have trained in a minute. And I also appreciate that you can take the thin foam removable insole out and get even closer to the ground. That is going to give you as much ground feel as possible. And like you can see just how flexible this shoe is. Like you can squeeze it right in the middle of the sole here, and it just has a ton of laxity. So for lifting context, the shoe does a really good job with flexibility. And I also really like the grip and how you have this like lockdown feel with the TPU cage here and the wrap around the sole. I think if you are a power lifter, or if you're like myself and you're a bit more of like that hybrid athlete and you like to jump and lift all in a singular session and also do some hypertrophy bro work because curls for the girls, this can be a fantastic option to look into in the context of being a pure shoe focused on lifting. When it comes to cross training, I've also really enjoyed this shoe. I think the upper does a pretty good job at locking down your foot. The mesh and TPU cage, they don't allow you to spill over too much in this model. And I also like that the boot has a bit more structure to it. Like, is it gonna have as much structure as a traditional training shoe? No, but with this like leatherish overlay back here in the heel, you do get a bit more structure and padding back here, and it breaks in wicked fast, which I also appreciate from a cross-training context. I think my only knock with this shoe for cross-training is the tongue construction, which I mentioned in my cons. This can be a little bit annoying at times if you're doing a lot of lateral work, or if you're just like OCD like myself sometimes, and you just want your tongue to kind of sit in a singular space without moving too much. But overall, like, this shoe I think can hold its own for cross-training workouts, even though it's not technically designed for that. When it comes to daily wear, I have thoroughly enjoyed this shoe, and if you can't tell, I've put a good amount of miles in this model, and I've actually even played pickleball in them, and they've been pretty dang stellar. And so when it comes to daily wear, what I like about this shoe, I like that the sole wraps up and protects this shoe's upper. I think it's gonna make this shoe a little bit more versatile in different inclement weather settings. And then also, I just like the minimalist branding. The shoe is actually pretty easy to match with different outfits. And so when I'm looking at other barefoot shoes that I use for training, some of them look a little bit too gymmy to wear out and about casually, like I've worn this shoe, but I feel like this shoe does a pretty good job. And despite having the sole wrap, like, it's not so off-putting because it is very minimalist with the colorways they use and the branding. So overall, I have been super hyped on the Notorious Lift Radix performance. I think it's a pretty well-rounded shoe for lifting. It does pretty good for daily wear, and it also works for cross-training. So when it comes to the price of the Radix, you can expect to pay $100. Now compare this to like the $200 price point of the Modus Strength, or the $175 of the Primus Light Knit, or Primus Light 3, or $170, wherever that's sitting nowadays with the colorways, or even like looking at some of the other models from Zero shoes like the Prio Neo at like $100, $110. I feel like this shoe does a very good job for its price point. If you need that shoe for lifting and some cross training, this model will work really well. And if you're a power lifter, I feel like this shoe will feel right at home for $100. All right, so now let's answer the question, who should buy the Notorious Lift Radix? Number one, if you're somebody needing a barefoot shoe for lifting specifically, this is a very good option to go with. Number two, if you are a true minimalist lover and you want as little stack height as possible, I feel like this can also be a great option to look into. Without that insole, you have a stack height at 3.3 millimeters. This is gonna be one of the lowest stack height shoes on the market right now for lifting purposes. The third context is if you don't feel like dropping a ton on a barefoot shoe, but you want a barefoot shoe that can do a little bit of everything when push comes to shove, this can be a great option to look into. Once again, I've enjoyed them for casual wear and training. Now, who shouldn't buy this shoe? Number one, if you're a beginner to barefoot shoes, you might want to go with something that has a bit more stack height and a bit more cushion. And then number two, if you are very OCD about tongue movement and you plan to use a barefoot shoe for running and a lot of versatile training, this might not be your best bet, because I think this would actually infuriate you at a faster rate than it would like somebody who's just using this shoe here and there, or they don't really mind the tongue slide. So those are the only two contexts where I think you're going to want to pass on the shoe. But now let's talk about the sizing of the Radix. So when it comes to the sizing of the Radix, I think most folks are going to want to size up a half size. I found the shoe to run a little bit short regarding length. I have about, like, I would say like a centimeter of length at the end of my toe box, and I would prefer just a little bit more, especially if I'm wearing thicker socks. So I think sizing up a half size is a safe bet. Now that said, I have a normal arch or like a regular arch, and I also have an E to double E with foot depending on the company sizing chart. So that said, for wider feet, immediately size up a full size to a half size, but I think most folks, half size should be the right call and the safe call at that. All right, so I'm covering the weight, heel, toe drop, and insole in the Radix. For my size 10 model here, we have a weight of 8.95 ounces. The heel to toe drop of the shoe sits at 0 millimeters. This model's stack height is 3.3 millimeters with a 2 millimeter thick sole and a 1.3 millimeter thick lugs. And again, this model does have a thin foam removable insole, and the internal construction is finished in this shoe. All right, so now let's cover the construction of the Radix. So looking at the upper of this shoe, you have this mesh knit upper with this TPU cage that wraps around the forefoot, through the midfoot, and then back here into the heel. Around the heel here, you have this like leather-ish material. This helps give the boot a little bit more structure, and you also have an external tab back here on the back of the boot. Looking at the midfoot of this shoe, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 core eyelets that go up, with the 7th back here for lace lock. Again, this tongue does not feature a gusset, so it can slide at times, and there is no additional loop, but the tongue itself is a padded mesh, so it doesn't really cause friction or cause any form of rub when it is sliding a little bit when you're training. The toe box itself has a bit of structure too, so there is a little bit of an internal toe wrap and guard in here as well to help give this a bit more structure when you're training and pressing into the forefoot. Looking at the sole of this shoe, it has a wrap that extends the entirety of the shoe, so you have that rubber wrap around the forefoot on the medial side and the lateral lateral side. I think that's gonna be great and appreciated from my sumo deadlifters out there. Grip itself is a herringbone tread patterning, and Notorious Lift uses their Novus grip tech in the shoe. It's basically like their rubber compound and their way of giving the shoe a little bit more grip, but I like these lugs because you can see they kind of move. They're not super rigid. So when you're pressing into this shoe in training, they do give you a little bit of give and bite there. And then once again, the shoe does have that thin foam removal insole, but that pretty much wraps up like the nuts and bolts of the shoe's construction. If you have additional questions on this model, drop a comment down below. All right guys, that wraps up my review of the Notorious Lift Radix. Honestly, I have been very hyped on this shoe, especially for the price point. If you have additional questions on this model, or if it fits into your training needs and your foot anatomy, etc., drop a comment down below or reach out to me personally, whichever you prefer. And as always, y'all, drop a like on the video, drop subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next one.